we'll start with the questions now, and everybody has an opportunity to answer each question, but if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. And we'll start with Shelley Mazer and then just go down and come back to Andy Cohn. The first question deals with the budget. And to begin with, as you've all stated, or many of you have, the county has an increasing fiscal crisis. We hear plenty of talk about pension reform, but what specifically would you do to fix these unsustainable commitments going forward? And in addition, as you're answering the question, if you can, answer what are the top 3 leverage items that will balance the county's budget? And we'll start with Shelley Mazer.
Okay. Well, first I want to just say that actually the county's been decreasing its budget deficit over the last couple of years, and it's gone down from over $100 million, and the projected deficit next year is about $24 million. Still not insignificant, but on a $1.8 billion budget, it is a significant improvement over what we were facing a few years ago. So I think it's just important to have that context. It's been done through actual programmatic cuts, through negotiations with labor, where they have taken concessions and, in fact, raised the age of retirement. For some of them, they've changed the contribution structure. And so the county, and they've changed the way that new hires are receiving their pensions. So they have done work in that area as well. And by the way, how long do we have for these questions?
1.5 minutes.
Okay. So I think that, those things have started, and I think those things are going to need to continue to be done. I, sitting here, don't feel comfortable ever saying these are the top 3 things that need to be done. The county's budget is extremely complex, and different aspects of the budget affect each other differently. And until you're in there actually struggling with it and working it out, it's impossible, I think, to reasonably say these are the actual things that need to happen. So,
thank you. Warren Slocum.
Thank you. Let me just start with the pension question. I think the things that Shelley mentioned are accurate. But I think the one thing that's missing is we seem to lack a serious long-term focus on these kinds of issues. There is an underfunded liability in the county's pension system. The actual percentages vary, but I don't think anybody disagrees that there's an unfunded liability. The main question is, how do you bring those numbers closer together? One of the ways, well, Shelley mentioned several ways that the county has begun to address that problem, but I would take it a step further and just say that we need a serious plan on how to do this, and we need some professional guidance and some recommendations on how to do this over the long term. In terms of the 3 top items, let me just give you a few. First of all, we need a truthful financial plan that's based on real numbers, not wishful thinking. We got to have new ideas to cut costs. We got to operate more efficiently. We got to explore further consolidations of services. We got to reduce spending and make some tough decisions. And I think the last thing that we might look at is further collaborations with nonprofits and other agencies. Stop. Thank you.
Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. So, in regards to the pensions, first of all, I don't think the problem lies with the public employees. I think the problem lies with unrealistic expectations and poor investment decisions. That being said, what I would like to do, well, first of all, I think cities in their own right are taking steps in the right directions in order to minimize the crisis that we're having with pensions. The two-tier pension formula is one way to go about it. But I think one of the biggest things that we really need to start focusing on is having better transparency when we are negotiating amongst our cities and union leaders. I think the contract negotiations really need to be put out there, as well as bringing innovative and smart community members to get involved in the process as well. I think the ideas are out there. I think the answers are out there, and I think that's what's going to get the answer for our pension reform.
Thank you. Memo Morantes.
Thank you so much. I agree with Shelley in regards to where our budget is. It's not as bad as we have been for the past 5 years. The last 2 years have actually improved. We are running programs more efficiently and able to reduce it. There is some movement towards to look at the ERAF money that we've been collecting over the years and put that into the budget, which will also reduce our deficit. So there are some things that are being done already, and I do not agree to go in there and cut programs. Remember, some of the programs that we have, really we are the agents of the state in providing those services. So each program may have to be handled a little differently, and how do you approach it and how you manage the funding. Some of them we get 100%, some of them we get 50-50. The county has to provide 50% of those funds. So that's in regards to the budget. The second one, in regards to the pension reform, as we renew union contracts, that's where we need to be more proactive. It's something that we have to live with, and we have to make sure that we have the funding money there for the future. We can't continue to live on a day-to-day basis in a matter of time. Sorry.
Carlos Romero.
Thank you. Obviously, this county faces some very significant financial problems over the next several years, in particular related to the budget. I think what the county really needs is to move towards outcome-based budgeting, because we need to set our priorities so that when we are there determining what we are going to cut, what we are going to fund, we can, as a Board of Supervisors and as a county, have said we have a roadmap that has been put together through outcome-based budgeting. We need to move in that direction. In terms of what I would do within the budget, certainly we have to look at wage concessions through thoughtful negotiations. Number two, obviously operating efficiencies, consolidations are things that we should be looking at. Number three, we have to look at the revenue side. I'm sorry. It means we will have to put taxes on the ballot. The three that are on the ballot right now probably make sense, but we may indeed need to look at sales taxes. Let's move to the pension issue. A massive problem. Let's get the numbers correct in the first place. County says we're 75% funded. Stanford says we're 49% funded. Until we get those numbers right, we won't be able to sit at the table with the unions and negotiate in an open, fair way to say we have a problem, we have to resolve it. So 3 ways that I would look at the pension issue. 1, definitely move to 2-tier pension systems. Number 2, let's limit the amount of money people can actually take out in terms of a percentage of their salary in retirement. And also, let's actually sit down and have full discussions with the unions. Thank you.
Thank you. Kirsten Keith.
Thank you. On this issue, there are a number of things that we can do, but I think I'll just start with the budget deficit issue. It was $77 billion, and now it's gone down, according to the county manager, John Maltby. I think we really need to be careful about what we're looking at with the budget deficit and presume that things are going to continue to be flat and not necessarily increasing. I think a lot of things have been said, but operating efficiently, consolidating services, I mean, these are things that we look at now on the Menlo Park City Council as we look to our budget. Some of the things that we'll be doing is looking at, we have a couple of different child care providers for after-school programs, and we'll look at seeing if we can collaborate with the Boys and Girls Club to have shared services and provide them more efficiently, as we do have a budget deficit here, and we have to figure out how to deal with those things as well. And it's the same thing that you would look at the county level. So collaborating, as far as pension issues go, I think in Menlo Park we've been very transparent. I see many people here who were helped with Measure L, which was a ballot measure that we had in 2010 that passed with over 70% of the electorate voting in favor of that. And we do need to continue to look at ways to fix the pension issues. I think that when we look at Governor Brown's 12-point pension plan, that there are things that need to be done. I hope things are done at the state level as well as at the local level. I know for myself, I'll continue looking at things as I've been doing already on Menlo Park City Council.
Andy Cohen.
I think it is important to look at the budget, but I refuse to take a gloomy view of it. I think things have improved and they can get better. I've worked for 8 years in Menlo Park to make for better equity of all employees and to fight for concessions, including Measure L. I think Samsara, the retirement benefits in San Mateo County, the earnings projection of that fund are unrealistic. But I think that the problem is not going to be solved by laying out policy from this dais tonight. What needs to happen is we need to think differently. And one of the things we need to think differently about is how do we make a positive difference in this county and get ourselves growing again? One way to do that is through efforts to embrace the state's philosophy about housing. Infill housing is a solution. Ending sprawl is a solution. Preserving precious open space is a solution. One way to do that is secondary dwelling units. People need to face up to the need to allow greater density in our urban centers and along transit lines. I stand for that concept.